Hi friends, it's Diana here today, and today we're sewing up the Nyeca Peplum top and dress pattern. This video is going to be going over the Peplum top version with sleeves, but if you are doing the strapless version, the strapless dress version, make sure to check out our next video where I will be sewing up the dress version. Let's get started. All right, let's get started. I'm using the same fabric for liner and outer. I have one of my pieces, and the first thing that it's recommended is for you to cut out some interfacing and add it to the top of the bodice, the front bodice, to keep this heart shape here really nice and neat. So that's what I did. And what I do is I've had my piece folded, and I cut right along the edge, and then I removed it, and then I cut about a half an inch to an inch lower, and then I have that becomes my piece. And I cut that from my interfacing. This is a knit interfacing. Is very lightweight, so it's not a heavy interfacing, and it does stretch, so it's not gonna be like a tight interfacing that's not gonna allow the neckline to move, but it's just good enough to give it some extra stability, especially if you're using a lightweight fabric. I am using a double brush poly for my sews this time, so I'm using the interfacing for that. So once the interfacing is on there, I'm gonna grab my side bodice, and I'm gonna place one side here on the side of the bodice. So this is how it's gonna go. Sometimes I like to just place them how they're gonna go, that way we can see it first and then picture it and then be like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So this is how it's gonna go. Now, as you can see, there's a little bit of this is gonna kind of shape in, and that's good because obviously the bust kind of sticks out a little bit. So you want to make sure that this kind of comes in and it kind of cups it. So you're already adding a little dart here on the side, so it's kind of coupling out. So I've got my two sides here. I'm going to match them up here at the bottom edge, and I'm going to fold right sides together and sew with a stretch stitch on the outer edge of your front bodice and your side and the inside of your side panel, right sides together. And then do the same on the other side. All right, now if you want to open it up and make sure that everything looks good and even, the two sides. So we're going to go sew that up, and I'm going to do the same for my liner. So I'm doing the exact same thing with my liner piece. And again, I'm using the same fabric for my liner and my outer, because I had enough of this fabric, and if I have enough, I usually like to use the same one. Make sure for your liner, you use a similar weight for the bodice and the liner fabric. If you're using something lightweight for the body, I would like to use something lightweight for the liner. If you're using something a little bit more heavyweight, then you can use something a little bit lighter weight, but not too light. Because the lighter weight will kind of have more of a stretch than the tighter. And if it does, then it might end up bunching up on you on the inside and just not work out great. I usually like to use double brush poly a lot of times for lining, even if I'm not using double brush poly for the outer, because I feel like double brush poly usually keeps its shape really well, and it has really good recovery and stretch. So it's always a really good fabric for me to line with. But I know that some people do not love lining with double brush poly because double brush poly can be a little bit warmer in feeling, but I don't mind it. All right. Now I am also going to grab my back bodice while I'm at it, and I'm going to get it prepped out by sewing it right sides together on the back, so in the line of the back. And the reason why this is cut on the fold is because our backs are not super straight. We have a little bit of a curve on our back, and doing this line doing this seam back here, it brings it into our back and it shapes it so much better. So I'm doing the same for the outer and the liner. I'm going to be using my serger for this step, but any stretch stitch on your sewing machine will do. If I have to do a stretch stitch on my sewing machine, I usually like to do either a zigzag stitch, which I don't do a tiny light bolt stitch. I think the lightning bolt stitch is so tiny that sometimes the fabric can get caught under your foot plate. So I do a little bit of a wider zigzag stitch, and it sews really nicely. We do have videos on our channel about different stitches on your sewing machine that you can use to create a knit garment, but I am going to be using my serger. All right, now we are going to open up the bodice and steam those seams towards the center front. I love the shape that gives it. And then for the back, I'm gonna also open that up and steam the seam. If you want to top stitch, you can, but I'm not going to. I like the simpleness. Oh, be careful you don't burn your fabric. I almost burned it. This is gonna become my liner. Whew. Double brush poly can be sensitive. And what I try to do to iron it is to give it tons and tons of steams and actually not really put my iron to it. But I was talking and didn't realize I was putting my iron to it, because I do put my iron in a really hot steam option. Oof, I need to be careful. All right, now we're gonna grab our liner and our outer and put them, the front and the back right sides together. So this is my outer, this is my liner, this is the one that I almost burnt. So I'm gonna grab my outer and place it right sides together with my outer back, outer front, outer back, and we're gonna match up those shoulder seams. And then we're gonna do the same with the liner back and liner front, line them right sides together and sew up the shoulder seams. So now we're going to sew up the liner and outer together at the neck area. And this is the most challenging part of this sew. And I will say that it really isn't challenging, is that you need to make sure that you take your time. We're gonna start by matching up, let me match up the shoulder seams and the back area. And because we use the same pattern pieces, they should match up really nicely here. All right. Now for the front, this is where we need to be really kind of careful and take our time. The side seams, you can go ahead and match those up. I'm gonna match up until about an inch away from the corner edge. All right, so here's my front bodice and I'm matching up, make sure that everything matches up nicely here at this curve. I'm showing you a little bit of the color from the other side coming up. You see how it's matching correctly? Make sure you match it all up. Make sure the corners match up as well. This one's a little crooked here. All right. And then I'm going to use a water-soluble marker and I'm gonna mark my seam allowances. So basically here at the corner, I wanna mark where it's coming. So this is supposed to go that way. And my seam allowance going this way. So here's a little square of my seam allowance here. And you can mark your seam allowance all the way to the point here if you want to. This is my front point right there. I like to mark my front point because when I'm coming around and sewing, I want to make sure that I know where I'm stopping at my seam allowance here. I'm coming and stopping here and then turn and pivot over to the other side. So you can go ahead and mark it. I don't always mark all of it, but you can do however much you want to mark, and then you want to mark on this side. And you know, you can tell that I'm just kind of eyeballing it. If you want to be, you know, I'm not really neat at measuring because I can tell, I can eyeball what my seam allowance is. But if you're worried about it, make sure that you use your ruler and mark your seam allowance. Okay, the reason why this is lower than you think is because this is right here. It's just my, what do you call it? My, I'll pull this down a little bit. This is the rest of my interfacing. So my seam allowance is actually a little bit lower than that. All right. So what I'm going to do is, now that it's all marked, I'm going to put pins. One pin right here in the center to keep it together. I'm going to put a pin here in the corner to keep it together. If you want to do clips here or pins, it's up to you. Clips is fine, but the pins are good for stability at those points that you want really right up to the, go to the machine, put the machine like basically right up to the point. Using the pins gets you closer to the point, and then you pull it off and keep going. What we're going to do now is I'm going to start here about about an inch away from the corner, and we're going to go down with a stretch stitch on my sewing machine. I cannot use a serger for this step because sergers are too hard to control, and it won't give me a really nice result on this neckline. So we're going to start here, and we're going to go down and then come to that point and pivot over and go around, down, come to this point and then pivot and go up, come to this point and then pivot and go up this way. I'm going to use a triple stitch on my sewing machine, and I am going to move my outer edges of my bodice, and I'm just going to clip them here. I don't have to like worry about them being straight or not. I just want these to be out of the way so they don't tuck under and get caught in there for some reason. I'm going to use a triple stitch. You can use a lightning bolt stitch, a zigzag stitch, whatever you want to use. We're going to go down, around, over, up, and sew out that neckline. And after we're done with that, well, I'll come back and show you. All right, my triple stitch looks like 3 straight little stitches. Wrong thing. 3 straight little stitches together, and I'm gonna go ahead and start it here. Make sure your sides are nice and even. All right, once I get to the spot, lift up my foot, keep my needle down though, and then we're going over. Remove this pin before I get to it and go all the way up to that point. Lift my foot, turn, and we're going the other way. Lift and turn. All right, so now as you can see, here's the curve. That one I kind of messed up a little bit because I lifted and I kind of flipped it. But hopefully it'll be okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to clip here in the center all the way up to the thread. Don't cut the thread though. And then as I go along the curve, I'm going to make a couple snippets. Don't cut the thread. So that way it's easier for the fabric to fold over and kind of lay flatter. And then here also at the corners, I'm going to snip to the corner on both sides. Okay. And then I'm going to go to my serger and I'm going to pick up right here and sew all the way around. Now, if you wanted to do the stretch stitch all the way around, you could do that same stitch, keep going all the way around the back. But I just went ahead and wanted to do my serger here on the back. So I'm going to go ahead and sew that up with my serger. All right, now we're going to flip this out and steam that seam. So that way we can get that nice shape. I'm going to steam that seam out. Now, listen, if you want to edge stitch, you can edge stitch. I probably will not, just because sometimes edge stitching is not my favorite. But edge stitching does help it keep it from the liner from poking out, especially if you're using a different color liner and you want to make sure that it's not going to come out. You want to edge stitch. I'm going to grab a tool, but I don't know where it's at. I'm just going to grab something and just kind of push this out to make sure that it's all nice and neat. And if you do have like a pucker or something here in the center line or anywhere, like mine is laying nice and flat, but if you have like a little gathering here, you need to turn it back around and trim it closer to the thread. And then that will bring it nice and sharp. But look at how good that looks. I wanted to put it here over this mat so you can really see that it looks really, really nice. That shape right there at the sweetheart neckline. And I'm going to steam it. I want to give it a good steam here. And honestly, that interfacing helps so much to keep this stable and not just like really floofy. I don't know the word. On this video, I'm doing the sleeved option. So I'm going to move on to doing the sleeves. If you're doing the sleeveless option, you would do the burrito method here. And we do have a video on here on our channel how to do the burrito method. So if you want to do that, go ahead and head over to that burrito method, and it'll show you how to close in the side seams without to have it sleeveless. But like I said, I'm going to be doing the sleeved version. So I'm gonna sew up the side. So I'm gonna open up, here's my back. I'm gonna place the front right on top of it. That matches along the side seam to sew that side seam. If you are making the shirt version, the liner will be short like this, and the shirt, the bodice shirt itself would be long, because you're going to have, so like one side, the liner side is going to be short, and the other side, the outer side, is going to be long, because you're going to have, the liner doesn't go all the way down to your waist. I mean, to the bottom of your hip. It goes just to your waist. I'm sorry. Wrong wording. And so and then you're going to put some elastic at the bottom, and it'll be like a built-in liner. And then the back, not the back, the outer, sorry. The outer will be long as your shirt will be. Now I am doing, this is my Peplum. This is a Peplum style. So that's why it's short. The outer and the liner are both short, because I'm going to be attaching the skirt at the bottom of this. Now, if you're making the shirt style, you will be, once you sew the sides up, you will be done with the shirt. You'll just have to put in the hem. On the liner, you'll put in some elastic to gather it and bring it in at the waist. And on your bodice outer piece, you will put in a hem at the bottom. But this is the front here, this is the back here, and they're attached at the sides on the outer and the liner. Put that aside, and I'm going to prep my sleeves. I'm doing regular 3/4 sleeve. This is my 3/4 sleeve. If you're doing long sleeve, you're going to do the same thing. If you're doing flutter sleeve, it's just be shorter, but we'll be doing the same thing. We're going to grab my sleeve, fold it right sides together, and sew the outer edge. And that's prepped. I'm also going to prep my peplum or skirt. If you're making a skirt, actually I'm going to keep this here. This is my back one. I put this little clip here so I could remember which one's the back and which one's the front. I'm doing the flared option. So I'm just sewing the sides, right sides together. So now this will be all prepped. So then when I come back after sewing that, all I have to do is attach the sleeves, attach the skirt, and then we'll hem, and we'll be done with this bodice, this top. I'm so excited about it. And if you want to see how I sew up this strap, the dress version with the straps, go ahead and check out our other video that has that version on it. All right, so now we turn this whole thing right side out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach my sleeve here. So I've got my liner and outer together. I'm going to grab my sleeve and turn it right side out. Now it's hard for you to tell, obviously, because I have a right and an out and a wrong side. Okay, so this is where I marked my back, so that's going to go along the back. I have to attach my sleeve to the right side of the outer. So whatever your outer is, that's where you're going to attach your sleeve to. So that's my outer, right sides together. So like here, it's hard to tell because of the fact that my outer and liner are the same, but you're attaching it to the outer side. And I marked where my top of my sleeve is. I have a little marking on my pattern, and that's where I'm going to attach here at the shoulder seam. And then right sides together all along the raw edge for both sleeves. And same with my other side. Now I like to go ahead and do the skirt at the same time. So I'm going to attach my skirt. Now be careful that you are attaching your skirt to the correct part. And I'm going to match up the side seams and mark the front. And we're going to do the same thing with the skirt that we did with the sleeves. We're going to fit it into our bodice. I'm going to mark my front and back, so match up the side seams. My back, I have this red clip, so I already know that that's my back piece, and this is my front here. And we're going to match it right sides together. So because my sleeve is on that side, that's the right side, I'm going to just turn this around so I can fit my bodice into my dress. I want to match it right sides together with my bodice. Side seams, and then the back seam. Remember, we're touching right sides together with the outer bodice. There we go. So when we turn it around, our sleeve will be sewn in, and our skirt peplum top will be sewn in. So let's go sew that up. All we'll have left to do is to hem, and we'll be done. For my skirt, I like to start with where the back pin is. And then we grab our half point and we kind of stretch so that it fits. But make sure all 3 layers are caught in there. Same with the sleeve, make sure all the layers are being caught when you're sewing the sleeve. I am using my cover stitch to sew this hem, but you can use that triple stitch on your sewing machine as well, or a zigzag stitch on it. And I'm just following that on the sleeves and on the bottom hem. All right, friends, we are done. This is the peplum version. It turned out super cute. I love how this looks. I love this neckline. The sleeve turned out so cute. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please comment, like, share, subscribe if you haven't, so you never miss any of our other tutorials. Go grab this pattern and sew it up with me. And if you're looking to sew up the one with the straps, I do have another video, so go and check that out. The video is the option with the straps, the dress option with the straps. So go check that out. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!